So this morning is all about spirit and spirit in business, spirit in ourselves. Why is it that spirit is so important in our lives? Or perhaps you feel, no, it's not, and everything is very logical. So I would love to know your name, introduce yourself to Kay by your name and your business, and perhaps how spirit has affected you in who you are and what you do. So I'm going to come to you first, Karen, because I know this.
How did I know? How did I know you'd come to me first?
Felt this was your topic. So yeah, so Karen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Karen, and I've got a ladies' fashion company called Goose Island. I've had the business over 25 years. It's wholesale and retail and online. Got around about 60 staff. And I'm very passionate about it. So I'm in my office at the moment. It's all going on out there in the warehouse, very busy. Anyway, spirit is so important to me. Cheryl knows my story. I lost my husband 2 years ago, suddenly, and he was a partner in the business with me. And I feel he's still around me. He's all around me. And I feel he's guiding me in the business. And it has been absolutely amazing because since he's passed, I thought the business would fall apart without him. I really, really did. I was convinced it would. And that was my main worry. But the business has trebled in size since he's passed. And I believe that is because he is doing his magic on the other side. And so I trust spirit so much. I trust the guidance I get, and I trust all the synchronicities that come my way and all the magical things that have happened to me and to the business since he's passed. It's been amazing. If you want to know any more, I can talk more. I can talk for ages about it. Our financial situation has completely changed, and I do feel that he's working his magic the other side. So yes, I won't hog it because there's a lot of you here that want to talk about it as well.
I'd love you to add in a really weird thing that happened when you were house hunting, and the last house you eventually went to see, and how that came about and how you felt he was speaking to you when you were choosing that house.
Oh my God, it was amazing because, first of all, I didn't want to move. I had a beautiful home. I had a psychic reading with somebody I really trust. She was my meditation teacher. And first thing she said to me is, Pete came through, that's my husband, you're going to move. And I said, no, I'm not. Anyway, long story short, the seed was planted. I put my house on the market, it went straight away. And then trying to find another house was a nightmare. Every house I was looking at was falling through, or I was putting an offer on and I was gazumped. And this meditation teacher, I have complete faith in her. And I messaged her and I said, look, I made an offer on this house. What do you think? Because she connects with Pete straight away. And she came straight back to me and said, Karen, it's not for you. And her very words were, it's not for you, love. You're not going to live there. And I said, why? I thought it was my perfect home. No, I can't see you living there. Anyway, I withdrew my offer because I had complete faith, because I knew she's connected with Pete and I knew this wasn't my house. So anyway, I saw another two houses, same story. It wasn't for me. And the house I really thought I was going to have, she when I was in meditation, she put her hand over the phone and she said, you're getting close, she said. I can see your furniture in there, but I'm still not convinced. But if you love it, you know, who am I to say? She said, but I'm not getting the vibe, but I can still see you in there. Anyway, that house fell through. That house fell through 3 days after I had exchanged contracts on my other home. So I was homeless, basically. And anyway, this other house came about. I went to view 5 or 6 houses, walked into this house, thought, oh my God, this is it. And I was going to Miami 2 or 3 days later. So I didn't make the offer. I messaged Kat, my meditation teacher. I said, Kat, I'm like this, fingers crossed. What do you think of this? Praying that she would come back and say, it's fine, but almost dreading what she was going to say. The message came back in big capitals. I've saved the message. OMG. Yes. Karen, this is your house. Make an offer. And I just went cold. I made the offer. It was accepted. made the offer on the Monday, it was accepted on the Tuesday, flew to Miami on the Wednesday, came back. I was in an Airbnb. Within 3 weeks, I was in the house. The estate agent said this is the fastest exchange they've ever had on history. They had a man last year who took 4 weeks, and that they couldn't believe it. It was almost like written in the stars. That was my house, and all the other houses had fallen through at the appropriate time for me to find this house that had just come on the market, and it all fell into place. And I feel as if I've been there all my life, and it's amazing. So I trust spirit. I trust my guidance from Kath, my meditation teacher, but I also trust my inner guidance as well. So yeah, so I've been there 3 months, and it's amazing. And every day, thank the universe for my beautiful home.
Okay, thank
you. So yes, and I've got a million other stories, but I'm not going to hog this Zoom meeting.
People might not have met Karen, so if you haven't met Karen yet, do make sure you make an appointment, go down to see her incredible warehouse and the incredible way that she does Facebook Lives and generates a massive audience of about 500,000 people per posting of a Facebook piece, and the technical techniques that they use in order to generate that into a massive market. So if you haven't met Karen yet, please go down and see. She's not far, just off the motorway. And yes, such a great to learn. You'll learn such a lot by going to meet her. So thank you, Karen. So we're going to come to you, Sarah the gardener. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how spirit is so important in your life.
Hi, Kay. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Jones, and I'm just starting off my gardening business called Gardenese Design Services. So that's I've got a meeting with Cheryl this week because I'm in a bit of a halfway house at the moment. My focus is not brilliant at the moment, and I perhaps am not trusting my spirit enough. I have thank you, Karen, for sharing about your husband. I lost my sister when I was 21. She was 19. She passed away in a car accident. And actually, it's interesting that my two sisters, my daughters, are now exactly the same age as I and she were at the moment. I was 21 and my sister was 19, and my eldest daughter is 21, my youngest is 19 at the moment. And it's sort of it's a strange time. It's a year of, and I want to get past this year, really. I want them to move into their next year so that I don't know whether that's easy to understand. I'm feeling lots of things going on in my mind at the moment that perhaps may be preventing me from moving forward a little bit. It's a little bit. So yeah, that's where my spirit is at the moment. I think I've got a bit of a block there subconsciously for some reason.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing, Sarah.
That's okay.
I'm going to come to you, Lucy. So introduce yourself and let us know where you're at.
Hi guys, morning. So my name's Lucy Wiley and I run Lucy's Kitchen UK, which is a platform that I use to promote the Thermomix and run a team of advisors. I've been very blessed. I feel that I've had spirits with me from as early as I can remember. I lost my mum when I was 8. Which is very, very sad, but I feel I've had protection all my life from it, and take an awful lot of my guidance through spirit. Very, very quick story I will share is a few years ago I was in I was in the wetland centre with all my children, and I noticed a robin that was following us, and so I decided to share with the children what Mummy believes that that robin would have been Mum sharing the day with us. And I said, shall we check it out. And I said, Mum, if that's you, would you show us a sign? And the robin flew and landed straight onto my hand.
Wow.
Not that I need much in it. So yeah, that's my story.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing, Lucy. Are we going to come to you, Miriam? Would you like to?
Am I?
Introduce yourself?
I don't know if my connection is any good because everyone seems to have paused.
You are seem to be
Okay.
coming out.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Oh, thank you so much, everyone, for sharing already. I'm in tears as it is just listening to you and the fact that you're all, you know, sharing such personal stories with us. I am getting known as the Happy Artist. My business name is Mini Lala Designs. But more importantly for me is rather than just being known as an artist, it's my journey in how I have become the Happy Artist. And as people have already shared, that was due to the fact that I lost my mum 10 years ago, 11 years ago now nearly, very, very suddenly. And I was in a place where I could not see any beauty in anything at all. And I was in a very, well, I was sad, I was grieving, but I also had a young family that I needed to look after. So I had to kind of pull myself out of it. And I found that by walking in nature, running in nature, and connecting with nature helped me massively and healed me in ways that I did not imagine possible. And again, the same as Lucy, when I can remember gardening. My mum was a huge, huge gardener, and I never really got into it. And then I started getting into it too late. And I can remember one time gardening and going, "Oh, Mum, why aren't you just here letting me? What should I do? What should I do?" And suddenly this robin just came and was right next to me. It was extraordinary. And quite often when I'm having a moment or I don't know, if the kids are driving me up the wall or if I'm feeling extra sad or something, suddenly a robin does appear. And I sway between, I know that my mum is still with me. I know that there are spirits of sort, but I'm you know, I'm connected in different ways. I think I find it, I'm not against the spirit at all, not at all, but I trust my instinct a lot, and I know that it's the presence of my mum and what she has taught me and continues to teach me about being brave and following and pursuing my dream, to become an artist, but also to help other people that have experienced grief through art and unlocking their creativity. Sorry if that was a bit of a ramble.
No, that was a really good share. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you so much for sharing. We've got Yvonne online, and she's got grandchildren there in the background, so she's just listening. And so she's left a comment for us. She says that she feels since her dad died, he's guided her beyond 21 years ago. But she has a faith, which means she feels guided, and she prays regularly for guidance and often finds answers to questions in scriptures, to the most unexpected events, and often have had a white feather when she feels she's close to her father. So, and I think lots of us will have experience with robins or white feathers.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing, Yvonne. And Sally's online, but she's going to be listening to us as we go along. So we're going to come to you, Louise Adams. Would you like to share? I bet you work with spirit a lot in what you do.
Hi everyone. Hi Kay, lovely to see you. Kay, I've got a message from Steffi to say lots of love to you as well. She's poorly today, so I'm passing that on to you. Yeah, I've worked with spirit for a long time. I've got a therapy business called Just Be, which is 20 years old this year, and I've worked in end of life care for 20 years in cancer care with adults and teenagers, and I also work in grief recovery as a healer and therapist. So I teach Reiki as well. So there's lots of kind of guides and spirit that comes to me in my Reiki teaching, which is gorgeous. And I teach people how to self-heal using Reiki for grief recovery as well. So I sort of tend to work with grief in general. But spirit is always there. I trust it, I know it, and I just believe it. So I can't wait to hear more about what you do, Kay.
Lovely, thank you. And coming to you, Beck. So tell us, would you like to introduce yourself? Because there's perhaps people here perhaps you've never connected with.
Yeah, of course. Good morning, everybody. I mean, this session is already so powerful. Thank you to everybody who shared their stories. My name is Beck. I'm a coach and consultant. I work with individuals and I work within organizations, working with people who want to improve their well-being, their happiness, their resilience, so that they can really fulfill their potential and be the best they can be. In terms of spirit, I can't wait to hear more from Kay this morning. It was just me and my mum growing up, so I didn't have really strong male role models, apart from my grandfather, who passed away when I was 13. And I've always felt that he's been with me, keeping me safe, looking out for me. So I've always felt very connected to his spirit. In terms of my own connection with my own spirit, I meditate every morning just to tune into my own intuition and try to listen to that and follow that. And I can just see the tagline behind Cheryl there, which says something about falling in love with yourself. And I really love that quote. And I think that that's something that I've experienced in the last few years, and it's also something that I help my one-to-one clients to do, to really fall in love with themselves. So I can't wait to hear more about this morning.
Thank you, Beck. Are we going to come to you, Bethan, because I know you can't stay around for the whole session. So
Yeah.
know, what's been going on for Bethan.
So I really wanted to hop in because Kay and I spoke once upon a time, and it was lovely to see a familiar name coming in speaking with us today. So I am so sorry that I'm going to have to dip out, just an unfortunate clash for another meeting. But for me, I always think of kind of the spirit. I'm very connected with this concept of energy and the universe and all that sort of stuff. And I think the two things feed into each other from me and my perspective. And I always say that 9 times out of 10, when I make a good decision for the business, it's based on intuition, it's based on my gut. When I overthink things and get in my brain, that's when I maybe will make a decision that doesn't line up. Whereas if I go on how things feel, everything seems to flow really naturally and come the way I want it to.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing, Bethan. Coming to you, Oksana, and of course, in what you do, you must be working with spirit as well.
Well, yes, of course, I have a conscious lifestyle business, and I use yoga and Ayurveda as 2 modalities, and both of them are spiritual sciences. And that is actually how I live my life from day to day. I've had a daily practice, not just yoga, meditation, breathing for almost 10 years now. But that's been with me ever since I can remember, actually, especially yoga. So that's 2 of the things that connect me to spirit, a spiritual life. I just want to say that, beyond all the things that we kind of talk about, I think there's other things that kind of is to be recognized, is that it isn't always easy to live that kind of life, to trust the universe, to trust life. It isn't easy because the ego is always there trying to kind of interfere all the time. So it is, it does take a little bit, it does take effort to actually to trust, and trusting doesn't come to us easily just because we've been programmed in a way where we don't, not to trust. So I just want to say it's amazing that everybody here in this group, just have this strong connection to spiritual life, to spirit. So yeah, and I'm really excited to hear what Kay has to say as well. I think great, thank you.
And it was really lovely to connect with Kay, because I was brought up in a spiritual family, and it was a natural process, a spirit, and in some ways invite spirit into my life to help me make decisions. And I've already had some time with Kay, who I believe is just a wonderful intelligence as well, and is going to add so much to our thinking and expand how perhaps we use spirit in our life. So could we put our hands together, almost like a virtual introduction for Kay, and say, Kay, it's almost like we can't wait to hear what you have to share. Over to you.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to hear your stories this morning. Mine started very differently. When I was little, I was a very happy child until I was 3 years old. And then it went out the window, and I carried a depression with me from the age of 3 until I was about 50. And it was when I was about 50 that spirit came into my life. I'd always believed in life after death. But I never did anything with it, because when I was little and I used to see things, my mother used to tell me it was my imagination. This day and age, I actually work with people's imagination, but I'll tell you more about that a little bit later. I didn't actually believe in spirit as such as I work with today, and as many of you have said, until 20 years ago. And I moved over to Wales from Bristol, and that's when things started to change for me. I moved over with my depression in a bag, carrying it with me like a heavy weight, and a 13-year-old daughter. To cut a long story short, I met a lady who went to a spiritualist church, and she persuaded me to go with her to cut the cycle of going to work and going home to a 13-year-old daughter. And if you've got mums of daughters, very often you clash. And me and mine definitely did. But anyway, I went to this church to break the cycle. I met a medium, and I went to her meditation circle again to break the cycle. Now, we've talked about falling in love with yourself, and I didn't love myself. I didn't dislike myself. I had no feelings whatsoever about me. My children thought I was weird. They didn't think I was a brilliant mother, because all I ever did was shout at them. I'm glad to say that both of them have now decided I'm a good mum, and always have been, and they realised that though I wasn't very well, that I loved them. But this medium got me to this place. I didn't like me. And she asked me who I wanted to be. My answer was that 3-year-old little girl. Of course, she answered me, you can't be that 3-year-old little girl, Kay. You're an adult. Anyway, spirit stepped in and took me with her. Well, she took me to an academy in Swansea, where I did a self-awareness course. And I thought, that is exactly what I need. Now, that's the first time that I can actually say my intuition kicked in, because there was about 4 or 5 of us had seen that sign, and we were all sitting in this lady's circle. But out of us all, there was only one of us that took the course, and that was me. The course got me to realize that things that had been told me in the past were true. My dad was a bully. He's still my dad, and he's still alive today, and he's still a bully, but he's 90 years old, so I can forgive him now. But I went from doing the self-awareness course to learning how to read the tarot cards, which may not fit with some of you very well, but they're just a tool. They're nothing to be frightened of. They're just pieces of cardboard that can be ripped up into little pieces if I wanted to. But from there, I went on and did some NLP, and then I did a kinetic shift therapy. And that's where the imagination comes in, is with kinetic shift. But I'm also a spiritual healer too. And whilst I was in the academy training, I used to go along to services there. I call them services, some people call them demos. And the guy that was doing the demonstration described a night that had happened. And it was a night when my ex-husband had tried to run me and my son off of the road. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And I believed that my grandfather, my dad's dad, was helping me. For some reason, I had that belief. I don't know why, but I was wrong, because it wasn't him. Because this gentleman upon the stage knew nothing about that incident, knew nothing much about me at all, but he described it, and he described my mother's mother. Now, I never met my mum's mum, because when I was born, she had a horrendous stroke, and she was left like a living vegetable. I'd seen her, I knew what she looked like, but I'd never spoken to her or anything. But this lady that he described was my grandmother. And that was a real eye-opener for me. 14 years ago, my mum died. 14 years next week. And I never grieved my mum because my mum is always with me. It's December. Butterflies appear in the summer. Crematorium, there was a red admiral butterfly. Every December in my garden shed, there's a red admiral butterfly. And I do believe it is my mum. I also get a robin that comes around occasionally, and that could be my mum or my in-laws. I don't know which it is, but it's always a comfort when I see it there. But believing in myself helped me to become that 3-year-old little girl, if you like, that little girl who laughs, who cries, who has empathy with others. Because you see, I've actually been married 3 times. As I said, the one in the middle tried to run me off the road. The one in the beginning, unfortunately, drowned in the weirs in Bath. And I've been married to my husband 33 years the day after tomorrow, believing that I was never going to meet anybody again when I left the man who tried to run me off the road. I didn't want to be with him. I didn't want to be around him. And this will make you smile. My son's 42 now. His name is Ian. He was nearly 8 years, well, he was 8 years old, going in 9 when I met my husband. And I had told my son that it was going to be me and him from then on in. So it was going to be me and Ian. My husband's name is Ian. So I believe that I had a premonition. I also believe that when I was a little girl, I played with an imaginary friend, as we call them, named Peter. And I believe that that was my husband of today's brother. He died at birth and his name was Peter. Seems rather coincidental that I married a man whose brother was Peter and was no longer on the earth plane. So I believe that my husband and I were destined, if you like, to meet, or if you like, Spirit got me there. They took a long time. They took me a long way round, but they got me there. In the same way, they got me to read the tarot cards, because you see, I didn't mention when I was sitting with that medium, she tried to teach me the tarot cards and I threw them in the bin. When I did my self-awareness course, I met another lady who was teaching the cards, and my friend wanted to do it, the girl that started me off on the spirituality road, but she didn't really. Spirit got her to say she wanted to do it. She frog marched me there because she wouldn't go alone, and the rest is history. But as I said, they're just a tool. You will find that I don't use that tool to predict the future, because I don't believe in prediction of the future, because that's all about mindset. It's what our mind is thinking today will happen tomorrow. But I do believe in that love for ourselves, because we hurt so much these days and we're drip fed so much. And those tarot cards do help in getting people to think for themselves, in the same way that meditation helps us to get out of the way and to listen, or should I say feel, our divine guidance. I'm a believer in spirit. Spirit has nothing to do with religion. Spirit has to do with humanity. Each of us calls ourselves a human being, but none of us are human beings. We're all beings, being human. The flesh and bones that is the human body is the vehicle for that wonderful being that's here to expand their knowledge, to help us to understand as we evolve how to cope with those curveballs that life sends us. And when we try and cope with those curveballs logically, 9 times out of 10 we fail. We won't fail 100%, but we 9 times out of 10 do. But when we trust in that divine guidance, when we trust in those vibes that are given to us, when we believe that those things that we see time and time again are here over and over again, aren't coincidences. Everything happens for a reason. Cheryl and I didn't meet by accident, although it was in many ways, but Cheryl was meant to speak to me and to bring me along here today for whatever reason. So in a nutshell, I didn't believe in spirituality. In fact, I was a devout Christian at one point. And my daughter, you would have believed, was a vicar's daughter. My husband wasn't a vicar, but you'd have thought she was a vicar's daughter in the way that she spoke about Jesus and the biblical stories. That was until she was 9 years old and she decided she wanted to ride a horse rather than go to church, and her life changed. But she's got that option. If she ever wanted to go back to church, she can go there. I've got nothing against the religion. Religion is a crutch for many people. The only thing I would say, they have taught us to ignore our intuition. They have taught us that we have to believe in the way that the Bible is written. I believe in Jesus. In fact, I would say I've walked in the garden with him. But, you know, you rip those religious things back to their core, and it's spirituality. We are manipulated by religion. We are manipulated by governments. We are taught not to think for ourselves. If we could just be like those children we once were and believe that nothing is impossible, then life would be so possible. So I hope that's given you a little bit of an insight into me. I'm here to help in whatever way I can, and I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you want to give me. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you.
Okay, so we're going to open up for questions. So please, could you raise your hand, put one of those little yellow hands up, or just put your hand up and direct your question over at Kay. Please, could I take a question?
Silence is golden.
Please, could I take a question? Okay, so I'm going to ask my own question while you're thinking of your own questions. This is a golden so please use this this time with Kay. So Kay, I am a Christian, but I also believe in spirit. And I can remember being on a cruise, and in front of me, what I thought a ghost appeared. Yeah.
Mm.
And even though, again, I was a Christian, I hadn't recognized angels. Yeah. And so the next day on the cruise, I tracked down a Catholic priest who came to the room and put holy water all over the room. And I actually said to him, he said it wasn't a ghost because I described the being. He said it was an angel. And I feel so stupid now because I actually said to the Catholic priest, do you believe in angels? And he said, well, there are angels all over the Bible. Why wouldn't I believe in angels? And I think sometimes we just forget, even within Christianity, you know, there are these spiritual beings that are around us to guide us. It's not as though you've got to put things in boxes and say that doesn't exist because of this, or that doesn't exist because of that. You know, I think we're all spiritual beings having a human experience. And, you know, when we leave this life, we will take on another life somewhere else, but our spirits will go on. So yeah,
I agree with you there 100%, Cheryl. And I'll share something with you all that I didn't say in my talk. My mother-in-law died 9 years ago. And we took it in turns to be on duty with her so that she wouldn't ever be alone. And my sister-in-law and I were on the night duty. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, I was looking at my mother-in-law's bed, and it was as if a shower curtain was pulled across it. And behind that shower curtain, there was a host, and I'll say a host because I believe they were spirit, working on my mother-in-law. I didn't say anything to my sister-in-law because my sister-in-law is a devout Christian, and I'm a Christian. I'm not saying that I'm not a Christian, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with religion either, Cheryl. It's what fits everybody. Something works for everybody, and I'm not here to criticize anybody's faith. So I didn't say anything to my sister-in-law, but 5 minutes later she said to me, Kay, did you see what I just saw? And I said, I don't know, Jen, what did you just see? I thought, I'm not going to say what I've seen. And she described exactly what I'd seen. So I said to her, I think we better call Ian, because I think, you know, it's coming up to her time. So my husband arrived with our daughter. Our daughter told me I was going off my head and disappeared. She had to eat her words in the morning because my mother-in-law did pass that night. And when the vicar came in the next day and was talking to us, I told him what I had seen, and he more or less told me I'd gone off my head. And he thought nothing of me until the actual day of the funeral. And in the church, he realized what I said had happened, because he's seen the bond that I had with my mother-in-law. So it all comes down to that word, that little tiny word called love. That bond of love keeps us going. Karen's got a lovely bond with her husband. And I'm sure that, sorry, gardener, design, I didn't catch your name again. You've got a bond with yours too. I know I've got a bond with my mum, because if I say to her, Mum, I need to be up by X time in the morning, I get a little rub on the cheek to make sure that I'm awake and getting up. So yeah,
I think
spirit is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, and it's almost like this feeling that we're not alone, because sometimes we can feel we're making these by ourselves. So isn't it a wonderful feeling that we can get this guidance, and we are not alone, and we can tune into people who love us and want to be around us, whether it's to shield us or to guide us. I think it's, you know, for me, it's almost like, well, I'm willing to take advice here. You know, I'm not in some ways pig-headed enough to think I know it all. Yeah, I will take advice, because I think, you know, if there's somebody out there in the three-dimensional world or multi-dimensional world who's got an insight into what I should be doing, I'm going to listen. You know, I don't know it all. I really want to listen. I want to open up and expand my thinking. So I'm going to open this up to you, ladies. We have only 10 minutes. So please, can I have your questions? Miriam, over to you.
So mine isn't a question. I just wanted to share something with you. When I am a vicar's daughter, and and there was a time where my mum was at work and my brother, I think, was out, and I was quite young. I must have been about 7 years old, I think. And my dad had to go and see one of his parishioners, and he was being asked if he could talk to this lady whose husband had died, and she was finding it very difficult to kind of say goodbye to him and to be at peace at the fact that he had died. I have since learnt this. My dad went into the living room and spoke to this old lady, and I just sat on the stairs and waited and kind of thought about whatever. And all of a sudden, I was there for quite a long time, and then all of a sudden the house was quite dark. And all of a sudden, the whole house, it was evening and it was kind of November time. So it was, you know, dark outside. And all of a sudden, the whole house became lighter and brighter. And it was so strange. And then about 5 minutes later, my dad came out and we went home. And I didn't ever say anything to him until much later on. And it was, for me, as if, I don't know, his spirit had been lifted or she'd accepted it. I don't know. It was just a very unique feeling and sensation. Like, I can still remember it.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. I have added Kay into our Academy group page, so we can carry on these discussions further with Kay. So it might be you want to follow up together about that story, so we can do that online. So Kay will be in our Academy group for a week. So please feel free to target questions, or you might want to book a reading with Kay, and Kay can pass on her details or any kind of program she's got coming up. Before we take feedback, I'm going to come to Beck, because Beck has put up a hand for a question. So Beck, what would you like to ask?
Hi, Kay.
Hi, Beck.
I was just wondering what advice you give to people to help people to tap into their inner spirit or the spirits that are around them, so that we can tap in more to spirit.
The greatest advice I give people, I think, is to get out of the way, and about meditation, because lots of meditation, and no disrespect to you, Oksana, believe that you have to sit in the lotus position to meditate, and you don't. You just have to get out of the way. Best place I find to get out of the way is when I'm washing the dishes in the kitchen. I haven't got a dishwasher, so I stand there washing up, and my mind just gets out of the way, if you like. I just switch off, and that's where I get a lot of my inspiration. I get a lot as well when I'm driving, especially when I'm coming closer to home or just leaving home, because I live by the sea, so that helps me a lot as well. It's getting yourself out of the way, and it's that little word of trust. It's trusting what you feel. People seem to think that your guidance is going to come through a loud inhaler in your ear saying you need to do this, you need to do that. It's not. It's what you feel. It's how you feel these things. And I do tell people to ask themselves 6 questions in total. 3 that they know the answer is yes to, and feel what that feels like in their gut. And 3 they know the answer is no to, and feel that in their gut. Then they will know whatever situation they're in, if they ask a yes/no question, whether the answer is yes or no. Or they'll also know if they need more information, because they'll get a muddy water, what I call a muddy water, because it won't be a clear yes and it won't be a clear no. It will be, you can't make up your mind, which it is. Then they need to ask for more detail, to delve more, and keep asking those yes/no questions until they get a clear answer. So that would be my answer to that.
That's great, thank you. I think it just comes back to what you mentioned earlier, that self-awareness. I think for me, definitely, if I go out for a walk, being by the sea, as you said, is really helpful to just kind of shut out the noise and connect with my inner knowing. But then it's taking that a step further and learning to trust it and acting on it instead of kind of pushing it back down.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to come to Louise Adams. I know she hasn't put her hand up, but she is so soaked in spirit. I've just got to draw her out of the screen and say, come on, Louise, you're bound to have a question here, because I know you work with spirit so deeply. So how do you work with spirit that perhaps is similar or different to Kay?
Yeah, I suppose I don't work with the cards, but I do have readings. So I go to people to have readings. So I'll certainly be coming to you now, Kay. So it's always good to know somebody else. I think with mine, because I've worked in grief and end of life care, I just trust that I'm being guided. So often when I'm working with somebody, very often I'm fully aware that maybe someone who's passed has come through and helped in their healing session. And I think it's something, because I've worked in Valinda for so long, we don't tend to talk about spirit, because we're so clinical. We have to be clinical. Even though we're healers, we have to put a clinical hat on. So if we were to start talking about spirit, we'd probably get thrown out. And yet, by the same token, the consultants will say to us, oh, Lou, we've had so many deaths in the last week. Could you go and cleanse the wards? And I'm cleansing the wards of spirit all the time. So when things get really sticky, I call it sticky, and you're trudging through the corridor and you can feel the death and the people who passed, I'll often go and cleanse the space, especially with the teenagers, because I worked at the Teenage Cancer Trust for a long time. So you can imagine the grief there for the parents is pretty horrific. So I would just say to the team, I would work with the team to help them, but also work with cleansing the energy of those that have passed. But I think because it's been something I've done for so long, that's why I didn't have a question, because I was like, it's not a question as such. It's more of a maybe sharing experience, and perhaps we could do that together. And maybe certainly for my people I work with grief, it's always nice to have someone to pass them to for that future connection, which I think is really important as well.
Can I just say that although I work with the cards, I don't read the cards for myself. I go for readings as well. I don't believe we can read them for ourselves because we get in the way unless they're angel or oracle cards with the writing on. I think we get in the way. Plus, like you, I find it hard when somebody says, come and talk about your spirituality, because it's just a way of life. And I will say, we are all psychic. Every single one of us in this Zoom today and throughout the world are psychic. That's how people like myself work with the cards. It's that energy we can lock into. But not all psychics are mediums, although all mediums are psychic.
Interesting, thank you. I'm going to come to Karen now for the last question or observation.
Okay. It's not a question, it's something that I practice that I'd like to share. I'm a great believer in signs, and especially numbers. And since Pete passed, it's been really significant, the numbers that I keep seeing on my phone or on clocks or registration numbers. And if for some reason I'm struggling over something and I'm online and I'm thinking, what should I do about this? And all of a sudden I look and 1111 will come up and I'll screenshot it, and I know what the answer will be because I'm getting guidance from the numbers, if that makes sense. And I use the numbers a lot. I don't know if anybody else does, as a sign. Oh, I'll see a feather. Usually feathers and numbers to know that I'm on the right track. That's my thing. The repeated numbers, the 11, the 0, 0, 0, 0, all the twos, all, and I think, oh, yes, I'm on the right track. And that's what I do, which might help anybody else, you know, but you've got to know what your thing is. I feel you've got to know what your sign is, whether it's a robin or a feather or butterfly, whatever. And if you are thinking, oh God, what am I going to do? What about this? All of a sudden the feather will appear. You think, yeah, that's telling me, yes, that is the right decision. And also one quick thing before we go, I don't see anything, but I hear. And the night after Pete passed, I fell asleep on the sofa because I'd had a night of no sleep in the night before. He always used to wake me up if I fell asleep on the sofa, and he'd call me and say, Karen, come on, you know, go to bed. And I was falling asleep on the sofa, and I heard clear as day, Karen. And I turned around, I said, all right. And then I thought, my God, he's not here. And I've continually heard that. If I fall asleep on the sofa, I hear, it's not as clear as it was in the early days. It could be a muffled sound. It could be something, but it's something that wakes me up, and I know it's him contacting me from the spirit world saying, come on, get off that sofa and go to bed. I know, and I'm not frightened by it. I just know it's him. But it's weaker than it was, and I feel it's because he's stepping back now, that he can see I'm stronger than I was 2 years ago, and I feel he's stepping back. And that's why the sounds I hear are more muffled. I don't know if that makes sense, Kay.
It does make sense, but we're always on the right track. We're never on the wrong track. We're always where we're meant to be at that time. I've had tremendous experiences in the last, nearly 7 decades with my depression and things. And we're always in the right place. It's where we learn. And there's one thing to remember, ladies, all roads lead home.
Wonderful. I'm going to pull this together now. And remember, you know, I've put Kay as a person in our I Am Woman Academy group. You can continue these conversations. You can continue the questions. You can, you know, set up a session with Kay, because Kay does free 15 minutes sort of coffee catch-up sessions. You can book a reading with Kay. And she's going to put all her details in there. So I would like to round this up and get your feedback, what you've got out of this session today. So I'm going to start with you, Beck. What have you got out of today's session, and how are you going to take this further?
Well, I thought it was really impactful, and I made lots of connections between what Kay is doing and also what I'm doing in my coaching practice as well, just perhaps with a different perspective on things. But just to say thank you to Kay, because your openness and your honesty talking about life challenges, motherhood, bereavement, which are all part of life. I think is really refreshing to hear that. The beliefs that you were talking about, I really resonated with, especially having self-belief, which I think is the key to everything else. And I loved when you were talking about connecting with our childhood selves, which is really important, because as adults, there's no reason why we can't give ourselves what we needed as a child. I think that's really important, whether that's play or fun or love or whatever we needed at that time. And just about being human and reminding ourselves that nothing is impossible, because we have so much potential that we'll never even realize, but having the belief that anything is possible gets us halfway there. So it was a really good session. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, coming to you. I don't know how you're feeling after this morning's session, and
feeling a bit sad, actually. Sorry. It's not in a bad way, but it's made me realise that perhaps I'm not tuning into spirits that might be trying to tell me things. I don't tend to look for signs. I see robins all the time when I'm gardening. They're very territorial, but and they've I don't know. Perhaps I'm just not. I'm blanking. I don't know. I think there's something. I'll be in touch with you, Kay, I think.
Okay.
But thank you. It's been really interesting, and it's opened up a new way of thinking for me actually today. So thanks so much.
Welcome.
thank you for sharing. Oksana, what about you? What have you got out of this morning's session?
No, thank you so much, first of all, Kay. It's been a brilliant session, and thank you for sharing everything. Just a quick kind of say, of course, meditation is not about sitting cross-legged at all. And actually, it is about, the whole spiritual journey is not about adding anything in, it's about taking away and connecting to what's already there. So, and it's been really inspiring. I'm definitely booking a session with you, Kay. So, I'm coming your way. No, thank you so much. It's been great.
Thank you.
I'm going to come to you, Miriam. So can you tell us how you're going to put what we've learned this morning in action?
Oh yeah, it's been really, really interesting, and what I'm taking away from it is to trust, because when I make a bad decision, it's because I've listened to somebody else quite often, and I'm like kick myself, and I'm like, oh damn it, why didn't I just listen to myself? And just remembering that reminds me what Karen was saying about how you hear Pete saying, Karen, come on, get up.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I can hear my mum saying to me, everything will be fine. Everything will be fine. And it's that kind of calmness and the way, it's not that I can hear her saying it, I can remember her saying it. Do you know what I mean? And quite often there has been really randomly times where one of her favorite songs comes on the radio just like that, and it's a variety of different songs, and one of them is the Bob Marley Every Little Thing's Gonna Be All Right,
Oh, yeah, I hear that.
And then there'll be really random songs as well that come in, and they are connected to my mum. And I've shared this with Cheryl already, but when I first joined I Am Woman, I didn't know the film I Am Woman, and I didn't know Helen Reddy, and I didn't know the song or anything. I didn't make the connection to it at all. But the day after I had my first meeting with Cheryl at the I Am Woman Academy, I came home the next day, and I'd been working really hard, and I was like, oh, I'm so exhausted. I'm going to watch a film on TV this afternoon, and I'm going to watch something that I want to watch rather than it being directed by the kids or my husband. And I was looking for something, and the Helen Reddy film came up, I Am Woman. And I was like, oh my God, this must mean something. I'm going to watch it because I've just been to I Am Woman. And I watched it. And that song, I Am Woman, I can remember my mum dancing in the kitchen and playing it. And it was just like, okay, that's when, guiding me, all these different little connections. So you've just reminded me to listen more and actually, yeah, it's been really great. Sorry to have gone on again, but yeah, really, really interesting.
Thank you for sharing. Coming to you, Louise. What have you got out of this morning? How are you going to take it forward?
Okay, I thought that was beautiful. Thank you for sharing just who you are and what you do. Yeah, I think for me, I loved your authentic kind of introduction as to why and how you got here. And I think that is so important, you know, as healers and, you know, homeopaths, whatever we are. I think there's the misconception sometimes that if you're a healer, that you're the omnipotent one, that life is perfect, everything's rosy, and it's really not. You know, most of us healers become healers because of trauma, and it's the very reason we turn into empaths and heal others. And for me, that's what comes across in your work, is that you're very, for me, very human. And that's what I want in a person. So for me, I just thought it was beautiful. It's been a good reminder actually to tune in to spirit myself, because I tune into it for others, but I don't always listen to it myself, and to my own detriment in the last few months. But I'm now out of situations, and had I listened to spirit initially, I had quite a few warnings last year about certain situations, and I ignored them, going, no, ignore it, to my detriment. So it's a great reminder to tune back in and listen and learn, because we do get the messages. And like Karen, I get the numbers 111 all the time, 22, 22. It's constant. And I just smile. And same with ghost cars. I drove back from Borth in Aberystwyth late last night after an intense homeopathy weekend. And I had ghost cars with me, which I've often had. I don't know whether anyone's ever experienced ghost cars, but it's where you see a car and then it disappears. And it's always on a point on a blind bend for me. And it was pitch black driving back last night, and twice I saw my ghost cars, and I was like, yeah, thank you very much.
That incident that I told you about, my car actually ran out of petrol.
Oh, wow.
But it kept going.
Incredible. So thank you.
And I'm going to come to you next, Karen. And it's quite interesting working with Karen as Karen's mentor, because many a time before I actually leave to meet Karen, Pete comes through to me. So because I knew Pete before he died, and I knew them as a couple and as a business. And so I know when Pete comes through to me and what Pete is saying of what I've got to work with Karen as well. So that's been an unusual scenario. So Karen, coming back to you, tell us how you're going to put this to work moving forward.
Well, I'm always working with spirit. So it's been lovely to meet you today, Kay. And I've loved it's very refreshing to have somebody talk in the business world about spirit. So as soon as I saw that Cheryl was promoting this, I thought, oh my God, this is one I have to watch no matter what. I put everything else off. But everything you've said, I've loved listening to you. And what will I put into practice that I don't already do? I don't know, because I'm already doing everything. I think probably listen a bit more, and maybe I don't listen enough. And it's just made me think, just listening to you now makes me think I should listen more, really, because we do get all bogged down with TV and with meetings and with stuff going on, taking that time out. And as you say, not actually to meditate, but just to breathe and just clear your mind. And then when you do that, that's when I feel the messages come through. And that's what I hear Pete's voice constantly. And in the beginning, I thought it was my imagination, but it's not. It's not my imagination, but it is. And I think they come through our imagination. So I feel, yes, use my imagination more, loving that word imagination.
Well, it's your imagination that I use when I'm a kinetic shift practitioner. And there is a lot of imagination used in that therapy. So yeah, imagination is important.
So that's the thing, what I'm taking away with me is the imagination, and practice that more.
Wonderful.
Yes.
I'm going to have to run. I should have been at a meeting at 12 o'clock. So I'm going to say bye. And thank you for having me this morning. And I look forward to speaking to all of you. You can book a virtual coffee with me via my website. I'll put details in the group later on today because I've got back-to-back meetings now, but I will do them later on.
Oh,
and I'll
lovely.
speak to
Thank
you all
you,
soon.
Kay. Much
Thank you very much.
appreciated your talent with us.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. And I just give you a quick update next week. It's all about how to use LinkedIn. So we're putting out feedback on the floor next week, and it's all about LinkedIn. But I'm sure we'll use LinkedIn in a very trusting, intuitive, spiritual way. But it's a shift.
Yeah.
It's all about LinkedIn. I'm generating a lot of interest and business using LinkedIn, and there are so many techniques now that people are using. So we've got a great lady called Pam Case. Steffi has really promoted her, saying that she really helped her really develop her audience in LinkedIn. So Pam is going to come and share her talent with us next week. So look forward to seeing you all next Monday between 11 and 12 noon. And have a great week, everyone. And please follow up with Kay in the Academy group. Cheerio, everyone. Have a great week.
Bye.